Konnichiwa, haya gozaimasu. That's all I know. Hey, it's Kutski, just on tour at the moment in Tokyo, so I thought it'd be a good time to do another vlog. As you can see, I'm here in my humble little hotel room, small, but all the amenities you could need. Come with some free slippers that I can't get my big fat Western feet inside. It's got the usual Japanese toilet with a load of buttons on it, which was a little bit of a surprise first time I pressed it, if I'm honest. But anyway, yeah, it's been an amazing tour so far. I've been out here for about a week already. Last weekend I played an amazing gig in Osaka. Unfortunately, I didn't get much chance to spend time in the city and look around, which is a bit of a shame because I've never been there before. But the gig more than made up for that. I mean, like I said, it's the first time that I've ever played in the city before, and I got there, so it was incredible to see people with Keeping the Rave Alive t-shirts on everywhere, and everyone bringing like little gifts. Like one guy brought these like little charms that go on a keyring with Kutski written on one side, Keeping the Rave Alive on the other, and actually had Kutski written in Japanese on it, which is, yeah, really sweet and really humbling to kind of, you know, come to the other side of the world first time you've been to a city and to receive that kind of a welcome. So I want to say a big shout out to everybody in Osaka because that was amazing. And then I had to dart straight over to Tokyo because I was playing at a legendary club called Agihara with Yoji and Remocon, two legends of the Japanese hard dance scene, and that was another amazing show. The club was a lot bigger than I thought. You know, I've played here in Tokyo twice before, and there were smaller parties, really dedicated scene, but you know, kind of smaller underground clubs. Whereas this apparently is one of the biggest clubs in Japan. Yeah, all the big EDM acts and everywhere that travel out here and play there. So it was a real honour to be there, and especially to see the club so full again. And you know, people with Keeping the Rave Alive t-shirts on again. It seems to be following me pretty much everywhere I go all over the world, which is, yeah, really nice to have that kind of support. And the one thing that I have noticed about the parties out here is how friendly the crowd are, like really opening. I mean, it's turned into an ongoing joke that, you know, once I've had a couple of vodkas, MC Kutski comes out. Well, once I've had a few sakis over here, then yeah, MC Kutski came out spitting some broken Japanese to the crowd. Konnichiwa, Osaka! When I watched the video back, pretty embarrassing, but when I heard the reaction from the crowd, I think they were happy that I at least made an effort. I at least tried. So yeah. So I've had a few days to kill because I'm playing in Massive in Sydney next weekend, so I decided to spend the week out in Tokyo in a district called Akihabara, which is literally my favourite place in the world. It's like the electronics district, and it is full of just arcades, shops selling electronics, computer games, just basically chaos. Imagine how most people feel about Las Vegas, like the adults' playground. For a nerd like me, this is my Vegas. I absolutely love it out here. I mean, it says it all. Just as soon as you come out of the train station here, the first thing you see is an absolutely huge Sega building. It's like bigger than the John Lewis that you get back home, and this is a Sega arcade. And not only is there one of them, there's about 7 on the main strip out there. It's absolutely crazy. And the arcades are a really strange place because when you go in there, they're really welcoming and friendly on the bottom floor. It's just like, you know, the crane grabbing machines where you can win teddies and toys. And as you go up through the levels, the games get more and more hardcore. So you move up a level and then you might get some, you know, some rhythm games like the Dance Dance Revolution, Guitar Hero, that type of thing. Move up a little bit more, you might get some shooting games. And then as you go further and further up, you end up playing these games that I don't even understand how to play. There's these big tables, people are moving cards around there, absolute carnage going on the screen. Really don't know what it's all about. And then once you get to the top floor, that just completely blew my mind because it's mostly virtual reality these days, or, you know, people are strapped into these big giant mechs and there's people on one side of the room having a war against people on the other side of the room, and with that it's kind of like, kind of wanted to go, but at the same time as I didn't want to ruin everybody else's game by the big dumb Westerner coming in and not understanding what the rules are. So yeah, so I got about as far up as playing the fighting games. I had a game of Tekken and Street Fighter, and that was me done. Shopping for me out here is heaven because they have these big huge department stores, and each floor has different things, like, you know, you can get cameras, you can get pianos, keyboards, any type of electronics you want, laptops, and then usually one floor is completely dedicated to computer games. So if there's any new computer games, accessories, or anything else that you want, it's guaranteed to be there. And just as I've got out here, a game for the Nintendo, Splatoons, came out, and that was a game that I was looking forward to getting. So I kind of got swept up in the hype because it's a really big deal out here. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to pick up the game while I'm out here. So I've got a little token to take back. And I showed you on the last video, I've been collecting them little amiibo figures. I've been getting one from every city that I've been to. So I thought, you know what, I bought the game Splatoon, I'll get an amiibo to go with it. And then I noticed that there was 3 of them, so I thought, I may as well get all 3 of them. And then after that, I saw a cover for it, and I thought, well, I may as well get a cover because I might not be able to get it when I get back home. So I ended up with this massive amount of Splatoon merchandise. And I got talking to the guy in the shop, and he was like gesturing to me that I liked amiibos. So I was like, yeah, I like these little figures. And then he took me around the back where he had, guess what, was surplus stock of Animal Crossing amiibos. And bearing in mind, these are usually about £15 back home. And he offered to sell me them for 100 yen each, which works out at about 65 pence. So when I said that I'd take a couple of them, he offered to give me the entire collection for 500 yen, which worked out at about £3.80. Well, the thing is, I've never even played Animal Crossing. Don't know what it's about. But got the full amiibo collection at least. Also picked up a mask which I've never seen back home that you put on for using VR, because I've got a PlayStation VR at home, and apparently it stops you getting that weird mark over your face with it, and it blacks out all the light around the side. It's supposed to make it much more comfortable. Probably not going to wear that in the airport on the way home though. One of the really big things out in Akihabara as well is the retro video game stores. That's another thing that if you know anything about me, you know that I'm really into that scene. And there's one shop that's pretty legendary. I'd heard about it a lot of times, but I've never actually managed to find it when I've been here previously, called Super Potato. And that's again, you know, kind of this multi-story building, and each level is dedicated to different eras of retro video games. I grew up with personal computers more than games consoles for the early part of my life, you know, Atari STs, Amigas, and when I was about 8 or 9 years old, my dad had sold all the computers that we had with all the games and replaced it with this new console called a Sega Mega Drive. Now I was a little bit annoyed by this at first because he only got it with one game, Altered Beast. Now nostalgia may tell you that that's a good game, back then not so much. But he told me, don't worry, because I've ordered some games from Japan. And when those games came through, I just absolutely fell in love with the Sega Mega Drive, and that was me, console fanboy for life. Now the 4 games that he'd ordered on import from Japan have obviously been lost over the years, I think probably traded in to buy other games later on. So I thought it'd be a fun mission over the last couple of days to try and go around the second-hand stores and try and find the original Japanese copies of them games that I owned as a child. See if I could relive my youth a little bit, and here's what I found. First up, we've got Strider. This was kind of like a hack and slash platform game. One of the early releases on the Mega Drive, late 80s I think it was, 89. Next up, a game called Hellfire, which is a side-scrolling shooter. Very like R-Type. I think it might actually be the Japanese name for R-Type. Maybe I'm wrong with that. I haven't got internet access in the hotel room, so I can't Google that. Somebody will correct me in the comments. Now we're getting to the really good stuff. This is still one of my favourite games, Golden Axe. This is one of the all-time classic arcade beat-em-ups. It's like I'd never played the arcade game before this one came through, but everyone used to go as a little dwarf fella. Even when you play it on 2-player, there used to be some proper fights back in my house between my friends over who got to go as the little dwarf. We still say dwarf, is that politically correct? We have to call him little person. Sorry if I've offended anyone. And then finally, my favourite, eSWAT. Now I absolutely loved this game. Basically, side-scrolling shooter again. You're a dude, you start off as a police officer, but as you get further into the game, you get a crazy robot suit on. Almost like RoboCop in a way, and then each level you get more and more power-ups. I don't know whether this game's like kind of critically acclaimed, but you know when there's just a game when you're young that you just absolutely fall in love with. I remember getting told off in school once because we had to bring a book to school to read, and I brought in the eSWAT manual and tried to tell them there was like, you know, kind of half a page worth of backstory for it and just look at the pictures in the manual all day. Yeah, so pretty nerdy way to spend a day, and pretty expensive as well. I think it all in all must have cost me about £60 for those, so not too bad. Well, there's just something about it that I think is a little bit crazy, that, you know, when I was 8 years old, me and my dad got those games on import, and that was what caused me to fall in love with games consoles. And then it's like, you know, 25 years later, I'm you know, on tour in this country as a DJ and able to, you know, track them down. So yeah, it's I'm a nostalgia junkie at the best of times, so I think that's pretty cool anyway. Another random pickup that I got is Mario US Open Golf for the Famicom Disk System. For those who don't know, the original Nintendo, the NES, was called the Famicom in Japan, and it actually had an add-on where you could put discs in it and play disc-based games. It was never released over here, and I actually haven't got any way of playing this either, but I thought it'd be something cool for my little museum at home, because I've never actually seen one of these in person. As you can see, this is in great condition. Oh, manual, perfect. And there's the actual disc. But it hasn't been entirely nerdy video game stuff since I've been out here. I did go to the cat cafe yesterday, which was pretty cool. It is exactly as it sounds. You go in there, pay a little bit of money, and you can sit down and drink green tea and stroke cats. If I'm honest, I was expecting the cats to be a little bit more affectionate. They reminded me more of strippers, because you could buy treats for them, so, you know, the cats wouldn't be interested during the slightest. They'd just completely ignore you. As soon as you got your wallet out and they knew you were going to get treats, they were all over you, you know, kind of like brushing up against you, trying to get your attention and affection. Once they'd had the treats, straight back to sleep again. I mean, one of them came, sat next to me after he'd had the treat. As soon as I started stroking him, just got up, walked away, went to sleep somewhere else where I wasn't going to bother him. So, yeah. Guess that's cats for you, but gotta love them. Kutski, you pussy motherfucker! And I have been getting more and more adventurous with food since I got here as well. I love Japanese food, but the problem with most cuisines is when you eat it at home, it's very different than the actual country that it's supposed to come from. So yeah, there was some stuff out here that freaked me out a little bit, like when we went out for dinner in Osaka, I ended up eating chicken livers on a skewer and raw horse, which was actually better than you might think. But the more traditional food, like I found an amazing ramen restaurant where I've been eating at least once a day. That place is incredible, and even got a little bit brave eating random meat on a stick, which I still don't actually know what it was. Hope it wasn't one of them cats from the cat cafe. So, it's been an amazing week. I can't thank everybody who came out to party with me in Osaka and Tokyo enough. Felt so welcome there, such a friendly, awesome atmosphere, and had an amazing week in Aki Harbour as well. Like I said, it's my favourite place on earth. That's why I wanted to make a bit of a longer vlog this time, just to kind of show you why I love that place so much. But tourism mode over and the party continues. I'm going to grab some sleep now and then jump on a flight first thing in the morning to Australia, because I'm playing at Massive in Sydney, which is one of the biggest hard dance events in the whole of Australia. I think it's the only weekly hard dance event in the world now, I think. Always an incredible vibe out there. Let's check it out.